Hello, my name is Rebecca, and this is my presentation of the program that I wrote for Code in Place 2021. I'm calling it Asher's Plate. It's inspired by my son. He is autistic and he is a very restrictive eater. And because of this, I wanted to write a program that would help eliminate his frustrations around mealtime and just make the whole experience a little bit funner for him. So here we go. Now the problem is for him, choosing what to eat is hard. I know it's also hard for me, but I also have a larger list of things that I will eat. He, however, does not. So what if we could make that choice easier? I wrote my program to essentially be simple, to provide relatively balanced options, and at the end of the day, to have a little bit of fun so that it's something that he would want to go back and keep doing when it's time to find something to eat. Now, I wrote it to be simple by having an interface with easily accessible and read choices. It's really text-based right now, so everything is very straightforward. The choices presented are what I feel balanced or as balanced as his meal can be. At the same time, however, it's possible for whoever's using this program to update the text files to represent whatever sweet and non-sweet foods that they want. And then it's also fun because I'm attempting to liven things up by making food less of a chore and more of an experience. So I wrote code that is a little bit more interactive. It's not so dry, I feel. Now, the solution is let's try to make eating and choosing food easier, especially for those who have a more restrictive diet and who don't eat a lot. So let's actually see how it works. Let's do no for no. It says invalid entry. What happens if we input N? All right.
Let's actually start this
Okay,
over.
so now that perfect, actually see it in action. So here we have the introduction to the program, and let's say that yes, we would like to see the current list of foods that we eat. So Y for yes. All right, so we have these options for sweet and non-sweet foods. What's the last thing we ate? Something sweet. Let's do no for no. It says invalid entry. What happens if we input N? All right, great. So the last thing we ate was not sweet. We deserve a treat, so we're going to get a cinnamon roll. Let's say that, yes, we would like to add to one of our lists. Y for yes. We're going to add, let's say, non-sweet. Invalid entry. Okay, let's say 2 for non-sweet foods. All right, we're going to enter a new non-sweet food now. Pasta. Enter, and then type done to end entry. And there. I hope you enjoy your meal. Have a great day. And that's the end of the program. It's pretty straightforward, right? Now, I do think it is pretty straightforward. And actually, if you notice we entered pasta, what would happen in the program that I wrote is that it would actually add pasta to this non-sweet food text file that we have. But let's continue. So, debugging. Now, problems and solutions. So my main problem was accessing the information. At first, I wrote a list and I was very happy with how it was working until I decided that I wanted to add things to the list and keep it more dynamic instead of just strictly say 8 things. So I realized that what I was initially doing, which was creating the list inside of the program and then appending to the list, it wouldn't work for my means because every time I closed the program and then opened it again, the list that the program would read would be that list that was hard-coded into the program. So that's why I went ahead and, as you saw, used files and accessed the text files using the open and then the write function. The write function, it took me research to figure out how to do this well, but essentially it's going to take that input from the user and edit the text file by adding that input on a new line. Now, another problem, traceback error. Oh no. So you may have noticed the invalid entry statements that would pop up when I entered something that wasn't Y for yes or N for no. Now, I coded it that way so that in the event that, we're talking about a 7-year-old, maybe he wants to be funny and say, heck no, or no way, Jose, instead of just N for no. Instead of receiving a traceback error, I coded it in a way that he would receive a message saying, invalid entry, let's try that again. This time we're looking for N for no. And so what I did was I used a series of conditionals to essentially say anything that is not Y or N, you're going to go ahead and print this statement that's saying it's an invalid entry and prompt for that input again. Now, I realized that I possibly could have used something called the try except functions, but for me right now, I was more comfortable just using the conditionals, and so that's what I did. Now, scaling. Improvements that I could make for this. There are a bunch, but first thing I'd want to do is increase categories. So make it more than just sweet and non-sweet. Really become more distinctive about the food options that are being offered. Create a GUI to make it a lot more fun. Right now, it's very text-based, but even if it had an interactive pop-up and it was more, oh, I can click this button and then this button instead of just type, 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 I feel like that would be a little bit more engaging for a 7-year-old. I'd also like the ability to add multiple food items at once. Right now, my son is a very restrictive eater, so I know that I only need to add one food item at once if he's going to be updating his list. However, that might change in the future, and I need to plan for that. And then finally, I'd really like to create an app for ease of access, because right now, this program is just limited to being on the computer. But if I had an app, I could basically make it mobile to where he could access that food decision maker wherever he is. Essentially, that's all of my program. That's everything that I worked on for Asher's Plate. And I hope that you find it as interesting as I found it to really research and to ultimately make. And finally, I just want to say a great big thank you to Chris and Maron and everyone at Code in Place, to my section leaders and everyone else in my section, because this was really such a great and fun interactive experience. And I couldn't have done anything remotely as polished without being in Code in Place. So thank you. And now the sky is the limit.